Hello and welcome to Radically Aligned. Oh, I'm so excited to have you on this journey with me. My name's Vicki Chisholm. I'm going to be your host. We're going to be exploring all things alignment in business and in your soul. We're going to be bringing together some amazing episodes to help you cultivate the alignment that works for you so you can have soul-aligned business success. But more importantly, we're also going to be bringing in guests for interviews so you can learn not just from me, but from experts all over the world. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello and welcome back. So in today's episode, we have got the amazing Abbi Jinks with us, and Abbi is going to be sharing a little bit more about who she is, what she does, and the magic that she brings to the world. So over to you, Abbi. Do you want to just tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Hello. Yes, thank you for having me, Vicky. So I am, well, I'm a lot of things really, and I have been a lot of things, but currently my work is in expression, self-expression, creative expression, confidence, and being seen. So having worked as a coach for a number of years, having worked in events, having worked with speakers, I'm really passionate about people having the opportunity to be heard and be seen and share their voice and their story. Personally, I've spent a long time doing that through dancing. So I love to dance. For many years, I danced in clubs and festivals, and now I do more conscious events, so lots of sober events. And my latest expressive channel is poetry. I do spoken word poetry, and I use that to both kind of speak a bit about my own story, but also bring up the vibe. So share some positive messages and really kind of show people that it's safe to be seen. I love the spoken word world where there's such a variety of people sharing so many different things. And yeah, it's a really great channel to put your perspective, put your thoughts out into the world.
Brilliant. So that's quite a transition for one business to another. So what took you from dancing as a business to poetry? What was the transition stage?
So it kind of happened like all beautiful things do, a little bit by chance. A friend of mine asked me to write, no, that's not true. She actually asked me to read something at her wedding. Um, and I asked if I could write something because I've always, when I was a teenager, I used to write a lot. I used to kind of share things, not so much share actually, but just spill out from my heart. And it's one of those things that I think I just forgot that I love to do. And when she asked me to read something at her wedding, I was like, okay, I'm going to write something. And I wrote a personal tale of her and her partner and how they got together. And then she shared with me something that another person was going to read by like a proper poet. And I thought, oh, mine isn't good enough. I'm going to write another one. So I wrote a more generic poem about love. They actually went for the first one. They preferred the personal story. So this was 2022, and I had this spare poem in my pocket, if you like. And I went to a festival and a band were playing. And at one point, they just stopped and they said, okay, the microphone is open now if anyone wants to express themselves. And you know, when you get that feeling and you're just like, ah, I have to do this. So I scrabbled around on my phone, found that attachment, found the poem, and I got up and I shared it. To begin with, the microphone didn't work, then the next microphone didn't work. So there was a lot of resistance there. And finally, when I shared it, and I got such an amazing response from people, and I felt that overwhelming feeling of just absolutely being in the right place, doing the right thing. So I
Amazing.
vowed to do more of it, and I wrote more and I shared more. And yeah, I've kind of been on that journey really.
Amazing. Love it. Absolutely love it. That's fantastic. So there's more to just the poetry though, isn't there? I mean, there's a few topics that you actually really love to connect with. And it's actually something that I've written about in my book. So I'm going to bring it in.
Okay.
So soul wounds, Abbi. Talk to me about soul wounds. What made you connect with soul wounds? And I can see how that aligns with the poetry side of things as well. And then move into the poetry side of the business? Do you bring the soul wounds into the poetry, or how does that work for you?
Well, yeah, there's quite a lot of ways that all fits in. I mean, for me, my biggest wound is probably the fear of getting it wrong, the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being loved, the rejection. And I think for years and years and years, I, gave my power away to other people, gave them the choice and chance to tell me what to do, or I rebelled against it, but just in a way that was not doing things. But I was never really seeking what I wanted to do. I was never really stepping forward. I also spent a number of years, many years, believing that I was a better person when I drank alcohol.
Mm.
And therefore, I continued to do that. And only in the last 5 years have I stopped doing that and really allowed myself to be who I am and accept myself for who I am. So within the poetry, there's definitely themes. Like the first lot of poems I wrote that are in my first book are all about kind of transformational things. There's a poem about fear, there's a poem about power, about self-love, kind of addressing the journey that I've been on, I guess. There's also one in there about becoming sober. More recently, I've done another one which is about my journey with sort of swapping out alcohol and bringing in the creative expression and the writing, which is one of my favorites at the moment, and I love it. So yeah, I think for me, it's really important to, with any art, to be vulnerable, to be honest. And I think the best art is made when we are speaking from that, well, what's the term? Speaking from the scar rather than the wound. So it's the places
Yeah,
that you've healed.
absolutely. Mm.
I mean, obviously with poetry, it's beautiful because there are so many chances to actually use it as a tool to help you through the wound. And a lot of people use poetry as therapy. You're writing through what is going on and you get to a place where you're having some kind of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to write a lot when I was going through stuff and actually found that some of my most powerful pieces of content have been written from actually a wound and not just a
Mm-hmm,
scar.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, but when you're writing from a space of a wound, it's not always the best to share it.
It's
It's
a balance.
but when you
It's
get to the scar point, like I wrote something a year ago and I was writing it purely from the wounded space because I needed to just try and find some peace. And actually, from that wound place, I then spoke at a charity ball in relation to what I was talking about. And there was
amazing.
so much emotion, but that emotion helped lead to that evening generating £4,000 worth of donations to be able to move forward. So I think there's a fine line sometimes about when is it appropriate to share from the wound
Yeah.
and when is it
Yeah.
appropriate to share from the scar. And I just feel when you're writing from the scar perspective, you're viewing it from the journey that you went on and you come with it from a more empowered state of mind. Whereas when you're writing from the wound, the emotion is just raw and it's all and I think it depends on the style of writing as well, because you can write from the wound and it be cathartic and supportive to others, but you can also write from the wound and re-traumatize yourself and others at the same time. So
Yeah.
it depends on how
Yeah.
you're going to do it. So being able to do that in your role is really, really important. But just kind of touching base a little bit here. So you spoke about your soul wound being the fear of rejection, getting it wrong, not letting people down, and I think majority of the human population can relate to this. But I take it one layer deeper and I look at, well, I call it the witch wound. I call
Mm-hmm.
it the past life witch wound, where it's not just a soul wound because you've just got these beliefs. It's because of a previous experience and the trauma still lives within, and therefore that's what we need to work with, and that's how we move through it. Um, but with the poetry and the soul wounds, you've taken this, you've made it something magical, and then you've also because I was reading somewhere the other day where you've actually moved it over to being able to know the soul wound, which impacts your business, but then also mastering the money mindset from that perspective as well, which I really find is a beautiful combination because it's something that I have also worked with in the past. So, what's made you go on link these two together to be able to scale and grow?
Well, I think, to be honest, I'm still in that place of working through it. I've been doing a lot of work with, accepting my worth and accepting that um, the money, the money comes. Well, what am I trying to say? Yeah, I think it's still a work in progress, very much. Um, like one of the biggest moments for me was when I was in the dance side of things, and because I started running my dances in lockdown and they were free, I just ran them online for fun. And then suddenly someone was like, well, you could actually charge people for this. And it was like this massive fear. Like, and the first time I actually charged people for it, I was, you know, I felt physically sick. I had this massive fear that somehow it was impacting me. And so there has been a huge journey, but I think it's kind of that piece of knowing your worth and charging for it and being,
Mm.
totally upfront and standing in that power. And at the same time, somehow separating your worth from whether or not people pay you, because that's, I think, the piece of the puzzle that sometimes we miss is that people have all sorts of reasons for not spending their money with you and all sorts of reasons for doing it. And it's not linked to your worth. And that was a big part of the puzzle.
Absolutely. And I really love that you've brought that in as well, because I work with a lot of heart-centered leaders, and most of them, at the beginning stages of their business, have all taken it personally when the sales haven't arrived. But yet, I mean, I kind of like to break traditional methods and beliefs and things. And I don't believe that if someone says like it's just not right time for them, why are we badgering them? If it's not
Yeah,
the right time, it's not the right time. You know,
yeah,
that there's no need to sit there on an objections call just to get the say that there's no need for that. I don't believe
yeah,
there's need for that. I believe respect people, they're adults. Let's respect them being adults. If now isn't the right time, that's okay. Because if
yeah,
you're onboarding them and bringing them into something when they're not ready, the chances are it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for both of you.
yeah,
Whereas onboarding, I mean, there is obviously the contradiction side of that where people will say they're not ready when actually what they're trying to say is, I'm afraid of committing to them myself in case I don't do it. So yeah, we could literally pull
yes,
it apart all
yes,
day, couldn't we?
yeah.
But one thing that I discovered through my journey personally was that I had combined this relationship to money, whereas money equals love. And it
Mm,
went all the way back to my childhood. So when I was younger, we used to travel to see family a lot. And because family didn't see us that often because we lived far away, what would they do? Ugh, take some money and go and spend it in the shops. Oh, here's some money. It's lovely to see you. We love you. Have this money. And so I grew up in my childhood going, well, if people are giving me money, that means I'm loved. If people are not giving me money, that means I'm not loved. So I had already attached this from like the age of, I don't know, 3. It's
mm,
insane. So when I was unpicking that, I was like, oh, wow. And then I realized that if I believe that money equals love, then that's the story that I'm playing out. And then ultimately I became back in my power. I get to change that story.
yeah.
So what is there any specific stories that you've been able to unpick through this journey that have enabled you to then say, I took back control here and I didn't need to play out that story anymore?
Yeah, I mean, just on the money things, there's like things about money being linked to problems in family. So like, and I laugh sometimes at how much our literature and obviously the programming from TV.
Mm.
And as a child, I used to watch loads of Only Fools and Horses. And yes, it was really funny, but the programming within that is telling us that you're never gonna like it's never gonna work out and there's always going to be problems with it. And even like looking at kids' stories, how many, we've got a book of fairy tales at the moment. How many of the people are poor, but kind of like they're the good guys? The good guys are always the poor ones.
Mm.
And they somehow, um, yeah, it's a lot in the money, and everybody's obviously got their own links in it. But I think picking apart the fact that um, money doesn't equate anything wrong going to happen, and it's kind of safe to be successful. That's the other piece, I think.
It is safe to be successful. Yes, let's scream that from the fucking rooftops. Hello, let's wake up this bloody consciousness that we're in.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love it. It's yeah, I just find sometimes like the poverty, the scarcity, the lack, whether it be from childhood, whether it be from media, whether it be from the newspapers, whether it be from the social media, we all still have a choice in that story as humans, as our own collective conscious, as our own higher selves. We have an opportunity to say, but do I want to stay with that? Or do I want to break through that and actually do something else for myself? And I've always been the one that goes, well, I'm going to break through that mountain because I don't want it. I don't want that there. It's not mine to carry anyway. And I've been doing that ever since I was really, really young without even knowing I was doing it. I think it's the little rebellion in me. Probably
yeah,
why
yeah,
I'm a little
nice.
black sheep of everywhere. It's fine. I just own it. So, when it comes to the money mastery and things like that, how do you help your clients with these stories that unpick? Do you bring poetry into it? Do you get creative? How do you find these?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work that I'm doing at the moment is more about confidence in general. So it's more about kind of just the confidence to be yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of like a first step for a lot of people. People that have become a parent, become a mum, and stop doing all the things they were doing. There's always a pattern of losing confidence and losing that connection with who you really are. And I know for me, I was, there was a strong moment where I was on the kitchen floor, literally having a panic attack, like what is going on? And I wasn't taking any time at all for myself. I
Mm,
wasn't, doing that. So for me, for the work I'm doing at the moment, there's the reconnection with who you really are, the confidence to actually be who you are and be seen for it, and that you are enough as you are. And again, with those the cruxes that we fall so tightly with, the drinking alcohol, the drinking coffee, the shopping, the watching TV, those things that can actually just numb us away from the pain. And I know from your own story that you fully appreciate that you've got to feel the pain in
mm,
order to heal it. And when we kind of get stuck in something that is taking us away from any kind of joy in our lives, then it's when we're like really, really struggling. And even just this morning, I was just having a conversation with my husband about how important it is to find the joyful thing in life, no matter how small, but do something that absolutely fills your heart so that the rest of your life isn't so hard.
yeah.
We were just talking about a member of our family who's just started doing some martial arts and absolutely loves it and is now happy to do her algebra homework because she's coming from that place of being full up. And I think so many of us easily forget that. We get caught up in the mundane, we get caught up in the pressures and the commitments we have. So it's that confidence to you know it's that permission slip as well, that giving yourself permission to do what you love without any kind of other reason other than to bring you joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Abby. Abby, if someone was, well, not if, for those that are listening to this podcast, what would you say to them as like one of your biggest tips in terms of that growing and embodying that confidence?
The biggest lesson for me is, like, you are always going to get things wrong. You're always going to make mistakes. Like, it is inevitable. So what holds a lot of people back from doing things is that fear of getting it wrong, fear of making a mistake, it not being good enough, it not being perfect. So I would just say you have to get over that hurdle. That's the first step to get over. do something silly, do something. It's not going to go away. When I do workshops, creative workshops with people, I often get bring in some laughter yoga tricks where we talk in gibberish for the first 5 minutes, because it gets everybody out of that place of feeling inhibited and feeling worried about what they're going to be thought of. You could walk down the street and wear, a banana hat and a tutu in bright colors, and you're going to get people judge you, right? You're going to get people judge you no matter what. And that doesn't say anything about you. It says all about them. So I guess my top tip would just be, do the silly thing, make the mistake. You're going to make them anyway. And the only way you're going to get to wherever it is you want to be is by feeling okay with getting out that comfort zone, making the mistakes, and learning each step of the way.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been really, really lovely to have this conversation with you today, Abbi. Where can people find you?
They can find me on the internet. I like social media. I'm on Instagram, Abbi Jinks Poet. That's ABBIJINKS Poet. I have a website, abbijinks.com, and you can find me there as well. Yeah, that would be it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And for anyone listening in, go and check out Abbi, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye for now.
That's a wrap for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. All these episodes are created in line with my book, Radically Aligned. Go check it out on Amazon, grab a copy, and let's get you started. At the back of the book, they'll also find a QR code where you'll get access to some amazing resources. You don't want to miss it. See you in the next episode.